Hey guys, how you going? It's VaulSC here. Welcome back to another bat rep, this time between the Combined Army and YuJing. This will be the final game of the ITS event I was at last weekend, the the 3-round, 1-day, 8-player ITS tournament here in Auckland. And going through the first 2 games with very big wins, I'm now playing against the only other undefeated player. That will be my homeboy Garth, aka Hyung, aka Elfs on the forums. And he will be playing his YuJing. Also undefeated. His scoreline's looking like 1 major victory and 1 minor victory, meaning that if he wins this game, he'll win the tournament. Everybody else is too far behind. If it is a draw, though, I will scrape the win, so that is sitting there in the background because, we'll both get 1 point from that, and I'm on 6, he's on 5. So, wanting to try and avoid that scenario of actually losing. Getting a draw is less likely because this is Unmasking, the mission where there are a lot of little ways of scoring points, and this mission doesn't often end in a draw. So, exciting stuff. Coming up against YuJing, and of course, having played him a number of times recently, a couple of times I think on TTS, but also facing one of his lists in the previous event where it was up against the Mo Wang list. This time he's running a new variation of their Xian warrior. So let's break down our opponent's YuJing army for this one. So Xian Lieutenant, this time around no chain of command, playing it a bit risky. I sometimes like to do that when I'm playing Vanilla YuJing and Imperial Service, but it becomes problematic when you're using the Xian Warrior to proactively take on a very dangerous ARO piece that maybe has a missile launcher or something in a link team, whereas you can kind of afford to do that when you have that chain of command in case something goes horribly wrong. There are a few situations where your opponent looks at the table and goes, right, I can't see anything else that could be a lieutenant. I really don't think that one of your camo markers is going to be paying all SWCs to be a lieutenant. I'm just going to assassinate your Xian warrior, and you end up losing a very valuable piece and obviously going at a lost lieutenant at the same time. But it is doable, it is viable, and I don't hate it. Zenchar, Fort Observer, I think it's okay. It's good liaison officer. He can fight. Some of the time it's better to save the points and go for the Guilang. Your obvious Guangxi Celestial Guard unit, always love that. The Wuming, we'll come back to this later. Zhishuang, okay, Mad Traps. My opponent loves doing this. I don't think it's bad. I feel like you've already got so much other good stuff defensively with YuJing. I mean, he's already taking 2 mine layers back here with the Liberto and the Daoying. You've already got all the chain rifles. You've got all the camo markers. I'm not too sure if you need to invest in those mad traps, but hey, very defensive, as we said. Pangolin Minesweeper, nothing wrong with that. Guilang Assault Hacker, I actually quite like it, considering that you've got so many other camo markers around near your deployment zone. It's quite hard to figure out which one is the Assault Hacker. And this is a mission where you've got an exclusion zone, but you've also got a bonus for hackers pressing the buttons, so I'm fine with it. Doctor with the Yao Zhao, you kind of need it if you're running the Xian Warrior, but also it doubles with helping the Daoying back to life, so I kind of agree with that combination. Liberto, far too good not to take. Shaolin, Standard, and Warcore, if you've got an additional 3 points, no worries at all. Let's come back to the main eyebrow raiser of this list, though, which is the Wuming multi-rifle light grenade launcher. So, you can see why he's wanting to try this. This is for the mission Unmasking, where the plan is to move into the middle, press the buttons on the consoles with your hacker, and then try to figure out who the real designated target is amongst the decoys. Once you've done that, you will fire at it with your Wuming, who will be the data tracker rather than the Xian Warrior, and try and get the hit with your light grenade launcher. He's ballistic skill 13, so if you get within the correct range band, meaning you have to bring him into within 16, it's +3, -6, so hitting on a 10, and if you've got enough orders, it's a decent chance of getting a kill there without any retaliation and doing it quite reliably. So that's the reasoning. That's why you might want to go with a strategy like this, and indeed a lot of people do like that. My preference is to really only go with that strategy if you've got the link team bonus as well, or if it's on a tag like a Squallow. That, for me, makes a better data tracker spec fire combination. or something that's got really high fizz and is going to go up really close inside a smoke grenade and throw an actual spec fire grenade over there. I don't so much like the YuJing because, first of all, this is, you're not going to get the real designated target 100% of the time. The game is going to devolve into some situations where it's just your army versus theirs, and it's not a matter of killing the designated target with your data tracker. There are going to be situations where you're in a great position to eliminate it with some other model, and you kind of have to, otherwise you miss your chance. Imagine coming to the end of a turn where you've revealed the correct one and you've got a model nearby. If you don't take that chance to shoot it and kill it there and then, your opponent can synchronize that civilian, run away with it, and it becomes really hard to get it even with your spec fire. So that becomes a bit of a problem. Secondarily, with such a high variance game of infiNity, you're wanting to try and avoid situations where luck can screw you over. And if you're just trying to hit on 10s and you don't have many orders to do it with, kind of hard to get that off, and sometimes you're not going to be able to get within range and you're going to be hitting on something like a 4. So, yeah, it's doable. I can see the reasoning for it. I don't particularly like it. I agree it's a bit different if you have a link team, once again, with, +3 bonus or something with maybe X-Visor, like if it's the Drew's version, for example. Something like that, maybe Emily or whatever she's got. I can't remember if she's got a direct grenade launcher or just EM, but just a little bit better than just a bland, 1 dice on 10 kind of thing. If you can increase those odds any more than that, then maybe. But we'll see how it goes this game. Another comment I wanted to raise about this list is that the YuJing Mine Layer Sniper is a substitute for Luna that costs a little bit more. Again, you're throwing an additional mine in the deployment zone, even though you've got mad traps, even though you've got all this other defensive stuff. So it is really defensive for that extra 3 points. The multi-sniper compared to the viral sniper, well, I like being able to fire stun rounds, but I also like being able to have a really nice counter to McMurrah if that ever shows up, because McMurrah can potentially have a really hard time against this viral sniper, whereas the multi-sniper is barely going to affect him. So that is a big difference. Marksmanship level X sometimes comes up as well, that Luna has, that the YuJing doesn't. I don't know. I mean, it's personal preference sometimes, and there's not a massive difference. I just still prefer Major Luna personally. That is just my personal preference there, and indeed you can build some lists without any sniper at all, really. I mean, you've got so many other ways to defend yourself. So let's now run into the game and talk about the play-by-play and, of course, the eventual outcome as we work towards basically deciding a winner for this little mini-event. So we're playing on the home table here. This is my own terrain setup, so a little bit of a home advantage. Set up the table for everybody to enjoy, really, and I've made it so that it has the look of a spaceship table, but there are some really long fire lanes, so that's deliberate. And I didn't want any naysayers coming over and going, oh, well, it's it's a really compact, tight table. It's actually not. There's a huge fire lane through here, a really massive one through here. I think this area here is really long. There's a massive one deployment zone to deployment zone over here, for example. Right through here is also really big. I mean, you've got these big, long lanes crisscrossing across the table. I hardly see this as a haven for jammers and hacking and mines and that kind of thing. If you want to engage your opponent at long range, there are ways to do that, and I think that makes this quite a good table setup. I managed to win the dice roll for first turn, so I'm sitting up first. What you'll be able to see real quick, if I just manage to get out of this, is a couple of hidden deployment picks. So my Malignos is going towards the midfield. This is the Anathaematic list, mind you. I've played the Avatar for the first 2 games. We are going Anathaematic for the final ultimate game here. So hidden deployment here, just in case I see reason not to use it. But probably Malignos is going to be going up first turn towards this objective, pressing it and then escaping, or to this one. You've got both choices there, but the plan is to move out there, possibly put a Dazer in the middle of the field to act as my defense for his first turn, and then come back and try and conserve my rather valuable Malignos trooper. Other hidden deployment model is the Noctifer, hanging out right next to the position of this Kurgat. This one position here is the most obvious position for the Noctifer to possibly be in, because he's covering the three main big long lanes that this deployment zone is afforded. And even though it might make the position of the Noctifer even more obvious and avoidable, and you can play around him with smoke grenades, I often find it's better to just choose the most effective position as opposed to the least expected position, because you want your opponent to play around it anyway, and you want to be able to spring the trap even when your opponent expects it a lot of the time. infiNity, although it's a game of closed information sometimes, it's not really a matter of your closed information being counted just because your opponent knows what it is, you know? Sometimes it is, but other times your opponent can know exactly where your stuff is and what's under the camo markers, and you can still get a ton of value out of it. So note that my deployment zone over this side here, so we've got combined armor here, and of course YuJing on this side, YuJing, and my Noctifer is in this little position here next to the Kurgat, right? Whereas the Malignos is over here, ready to move out towards one of these consoles in the middle. Then you've got my Crackot Renegade Red Fury data tracker on this side. Got a AI beacon, sorry, a Emitron there and there. We'll go to the zoom up photos for a better look of what's positioned, shall we? Let's have a look. Okay, left-hand flank. Let's start with that, shall we? So left-hand flank, Icadron, just watching around for any sort of Tiger Soldiers, YuJings, but not sort of looking too far down the alleyway there. It's there to protect against this section with its flamer. We've got our Crackot Renegade right here. The correct designated target is going to be in this corner. I'm going to be placing that HVT right here. Then there's going to be Emitron here, obviously Tiger Creature nearby, Kurgat with the invisible Noctifer right next to him, drone right at the back. So that's my deployment zone on the left-hand flank for combined army. The mid-ground, I'm putting my Lieutenant Anathaematic here with vision around to this side of the battlefield on the right. You can see where the R-drone was. That's the correct designated target, the real one there. Another Emitron here, and another Tiger Creature through the center. Malignos just in front of this wall, as you guys realized. Going now to the right-hand flank for combined army. Let's take a look. Grab the pen again. Extreme right-hand flank, we've got the other Icadron covering the opposite angle. There is a helper bot for the Kurgat, able to move over to where the Q-drone is situated behind this wall for now. Not covering the table. I do have first turn. I can move him out next to this corner if I want to, or just conserve him for future turns, which can sometimes be better because he's a good active turn shooter if the Anathaematic uses assisted fire to go onto him from there to there, or just really conserving his life and making him a more powerful ARO piece in the later turns of the game when it will matter more. Another decoy over here and another decoy over here in case my opponent decides to reveal them. This is a mine, and this is the Liberto mine layer on the extreme right hand side flank. He's going to be moving up here later in my first turn, and that'll be important as we're about to see. So that's another look at the right-hand side angle. You can see both designated target, well, decoys over here, and then the real one on this left-hand side, and of course the backline, Icadron, Q-drone, Anathaematic, Liberto in this area. My opponent's deployment zone, let's have a look at that. Let's have a look at how that's going. So, extreme right-hand side over here. If I recall correctly, this is his Zencha. Got a Quangxi over this side, Shaolin Monk here. This is the Daoying. It is placing a mine. Actually, I think the mine's this one right here. This is his Doctor. He's got another Quangxi here. Pangwilling Minesweeper bot. Warcore over this side. That is his Assault Hacker right there. One of his decoy HVTs right here. I think I'm obscuring a lot of this with my face. So that was the decoy we just looked at. Close this down, look at the next photo, move my image, there we are. Okay, decoy HVT, that was the Assault Hacker. This is the Liberto. It's got a mine placed further afield. We have a couple of mad traps around here, so one there, the Sian Lieutenant's back here with a Quangxi nearby, another mad trap over this side, I think. No, that's a helper bot attached to the Doctor who was back over here. Walker was there as we just talked about. Alright, that was the left-hand side. And I've accidentally closed the photo. Let's go all the way back over here. Then the extreme left-hand side, so we've got the control device for the Quangxis. Now, importantly, this photo will depict the correct designated target for YuJing right there, with a mine next to it, laid by this Liberto mine layer. There's a Guangxi here, and then there's Zhuang with his Mad Trap allocated to that spot there. And the other one is, I think, on the other side of this crate with the Shaolin next to it. So, very defensive army and sufficiently defensive setup. Another zoom out look at the right-hand side zone as he repositions a few things. My reserve trooper is going to be the Grief Operator Impersonator, and I really carefully had a look through his deployment zone to see whether I could place it near to his deployment zone and threaten a decoy or pick away at some Guangxi. I saw no really good opportunities to do that. His list is far too well defended and entrenched, so I thought, why not bring him back home? Just hang out in total cover, let that Grief Operator provide an order of return, pretend it's a cheerleader, and if my opponent leaves things near to my deployment zone, I can move out and attack it. This model is very hard to kill because he has to discover it first, and it can't be attacked by intuitive chain rifles and things like that, so I felt like that was the better play. It also positions it a lot closer to my designated target, which is important for points, so that's another defensive tool as well. My opponent's reserve trooper is, of course, his data tracker. That's the Wu Ming with light grenade launcher, which will hopefully be effective later in the game. My data tracker, of course, is the Krakot, positioned over here with Red Fury, who I think rolls up one of the speed buff abilities. I can't quite remember. No, I think the Dogger Total. I can't remember. I honestly can't remember. Okay, so going into the very first turn of the game, my opponent spends a command token to remove two regular orders from Group 1, which features these guys. Well, Group 2, we have the Tiger creatures just moving forward, taking no damage at this stage, but we have the Malignos positioned around here, who will be moving out to start us off in our first order. So here's the Malignos moving out here, as I mentioned, moving towards this central objective to move out and press the button, which it does successfully with a +3 bonus and 2 dice. So the central objective is turned on for combined army. I then go and select the designated target closest to his left, which did turn out correctly to be this one over here. Right there, and that turned out to be the correct one. So immediately pressing the first button and finding the designated target initially. I want to commentate on the fact that this is the one opposite the Krakot Renegade, and it's quite important to remind people that the choice of which HVT decoy is your real designated target, that is something done apparently at any point in your deployment. So it can be at the end of your deployment when you put your reserve trooper down. This is something we discussed initially, and that was how we ruled it. So thinking of the fact that he's placing his reserve trooper last, the sequence is that my Krakot Renegade goes down first, and then we choose data trackers, I believe. That may not have been it. So Krakot Renegade goes down first. He maybe sees that that's a potential data tracker. He chooses this this particular decoy to be the real one anyway, and then we choose data trackers. And my Krakot Renegade is a long way away from the correct target. So maybe that was something which was on his mind when he was selecting which one it was going to be. Although I feel like it has more to do with the fact that this one's got Guangxi, Mine, and Mad Trap nearby to it. There's one decoy further up which is more exposed, so he didn't want to go for that one. And that's why he's chosen this one. But importantly, we've picked the correct target right off the bat. So Malignos has moved out. Seeing that he's revealed the correct designated target straight away, I'm going with a plan here which was actually going to be my original plan anyway, which is to move the Liberto up through around here. I can't be attacked by his sniper and other units covering this angle, and setting it up next to this doorway, where I'll be able to use the light shotgun on that position we just talked about, and there'll be clearer photos of that shortly. There's another decoy right behind this wall, which I don't need to go for because I don't have the orders to go and press more buttons without, also retreating my Malignos. But even had this not been the real target, there is an opportunity for me to move in with the Liberto, use my light shotgun now that that target's been revealed and can be attacked, to put the impact splash template on that target and pick up a Guangxi and a Mine and Zhuang as well. A devastating move if I don't get unlucky. So, very fortunate that this is also going to net me 3 objective points. Moving out here with the Liberto, again, we can see a walker in the distance. The correct Liberto, enemy Liberto, is there, able to discover me as I come past. But he's not going to be able to attack me before I reach this position and get the opportunity to spend that order. And that's what's so crucial about this turn. So here it is. This is the second short skill of me ending up in location. And then spending the order. The Liberto has been revealed by a previous discover, and you guys can see what is going to happen, can't you? So Liberto firing shotgun at this point at the designated target. The template is placed on the front. The splash template now moves out as a cone, and there it is. So that's going to pick up this mine, not that that matters. It's going to pick up this Guangxi, which does matter. It's going to pick up the YuJing, which is extremely important. I'm also soaking up this mad trap and getting rid of it in the process. His Liberto is going to be fine. He's going to be able to shoot at me here if he wants to. Mine's going to go off on me, and more importantly, hopefully taking out this designated target, because I'm hitting on something like 17s, and designated target's not very good at attacking back. Now, the worst thing that could happen here would be me whiffing the shots or rolling really low and the designated target passing it and everybody else being fine. But luckily, I rolled fairly average dice, and the attack destroyed the designated target, destroyed the Guangxi, and destroyed YuJing. The mine goes off, the mad trap goes off. The Liberto does get killed, as would expect it to, but not really crying about the Liberto. He's made a wonderful play here, because I've gone straight up on the board for 3 objective points down to 0 compared to my opponent, and I've taken out a couple of regular orders by doing this move, and I've significantly weakened this area of his deployment zone if I want to keep attacking it later with other troopers. So really happy with how this play turned out, and again, would have done this anyway, even had this not been the real designated target, because seeing that opportunity to attack an otherwise very defensive position, I have to take that. Moving on to the rest of the turn, Malignos now needing to hide. So Malignos has captured this objective, moves out around here, places a Dazer in a position where, yes, it can be shot at, but then moving over and crouching behind this box. I don't have enough orders to go back into hidden deployment, so I'm going to hope that this tiger creature helps me to defend. I do have a Nocta for watching this angle here and this angle here, so that may help. But also there's the Dazer as well. And importantly, when the Noctifer reveals, if enemy troopers are firing at the Noctifer, I now have the benefit of that Dazer if he doesn't remove it first. Also, if he's moving around to attack my Malignos in this position, again, the Dazer providing that difficult terrain zone, unless he removes it first. If he removes it, he's -1 burst to shoot it, he may not remove it. All of these plays are designed to slow my opponent down as much as possible, just to hang on until that turn 2 where I can increase the momentum. So I'm kind of happy about how this went. The only thing better here would have been the ability to put my Malignos back into TO Camo, but just didn't have the opportunity. There weren't enough hiding spaces which were closer, and I had to spend that extra movement getting there. Also hiding with this tiger creature here, and getting ready for my opponent's next turn. This guy over here is also hiding around this corner. So, feeling good. Alright, Anathaematic using the Lieutenant's Order, moving around here, and I did this because I wanted to now, seeing what my opponent has and getting a bit of a feel for what's on the board, I decided to move to be able to see through this alleyway here, which will help cover towards the position of my correct designated target. He still has some line of sight over here, so not really giving that up, and just has a better view around my deployment zone in case of things landing. Even if he shows up with a YuJing to detonate an explosion on my lieutenant here, it is Anathaematic. He is armor 5 or like 6 or whatever it is. He's got 2 wounds in WI, and he can just fire his plasma gun. Well, I guess he'd probably be tripped into using hack transport, but I don't really care. I think it'd be okay if he lands a drop trooper nearby. Okay, my opponent running his first turn here for YuJing, and it's a smoke grenade coming out for the Shaolin on this side, near to this tiger creature. Another one over here next to the position of the Dao Ying, able to throw it up the corridor a little bit so that the Guangxi can advance into the smoke. Everybody else just moving forward. I'm not popping a Noctifer to try and shoot these guys down at this stage, otherwise the Xian Warrior will have too easy a time against that, so no need. The play that he's going to go with is moving with his Liberto to try and exact revenge for my one. So the first Liberto coming out around here and able to fire his light shotgun at this tiger creature, able to kill it, I believe, if I recall correctly. Then he's able to move around here, and luckily the Dazer placement is such that he's going to have to clonk into the side, the 8-inch radius of this this Dazer here, and that will help slow him down. And if he wants to, he can shoot at it, but he'd waste orders doing that. And if he doesn't shoot at it, coming around here to attack my Malignos, he's going to be -1 burst. So I found that kind of useful, this little Dazer here. So he does indeed go after the Malignos. I decided that rather than shooting back, I would engage because I wanted to sort of shut down his ability to keep using that that shotgun. I kind of regret doing that. I feel like just using the SMG would have been fine. What he's doing here is that if he uses the light shotgun, it's actually -1 burst from the Dazer, +6 for range, -6 for TO camo. He can get me without cover, so just 1 dice on an 11, whereas my dodge is just going to be at full fizz. If I fire at him, though, I think he's got... for some reason, I thought it was the Deschart version that has mimetism, which it wouldn't, so I'd just be firing it on a 12 with an SMG, so a slight miscalculation for me. I really should have been firing at the SMG here, but as you can see from the circumstances, this is actually pretty even odds. I could have, again, expended my Noctifer to try and take him out at this point, but just didn't want to do that, wanted to hold on to that Noctifer, and I'm willing to let him spend the entire turn taking down this guy here. And he does indeed fire the shotgun, and annoyingly rolls a crit. So a crit 11 takes the Malignos down. I had a pretty good run with my Liberto. He's had a good run with his. Again, a crit may not have been necessary. Rolling like a 7, 8, 9, that kind of roll, and me failing the armor save would have been just as good. So Liberto does well here. Elsewhere, repositioning Shell and Monk, and then moving out with the other operative. It's going to be the Zenshar moving around through here, and he's going to be moving towards the position of my data tracker. This is important because killing the enemy's data tracker and keeping yours alive is worth a point, and also he sees an opportunity to get some damage done with laying some mines. So this ominous Zenshar moving towards my deployment zone, and he's going to go prone, and he's going to come around the left-hand side of the car here and just inch his way around to actually take on this Krakot, and he's going to be able to avoid the damage of the chest mine because I believe he's got bioimmunity. Let me just double check that. Wow, he doesn't even have bioimmunity. God, that's dangerous. So a chest mine going off against this guy would be problematic because it could trade for the Zenshar. Oh, that's a little bit icky. Anyway, he does go for it. Laying the mine down here. Now my opponent probably didn't realize at this point in the game that the mine cannot affect the impersonation marker because it's technically a friendly model. So I believe that was one thing that he kind of tripped up on, thinking that this play would actually net him 2 kills. It's not. It's only going to net him 1 kill in the form of the Krakot, and only if I don't manage to dodge and survive this. As he moved to lay the camo marker, I attempted to break the Lieutenant Anathaematic out of camo state and try to do a hack through the nearby repeater of my Echidron, but I was just barely out of range to get that off on the position of his Zenshar as he breaks out of camo marker state to apply this mine. So that didn't quite work. However, you can see from the position of the Anathaematic over here that he's really trying hard to do that. As he does make this play, though, to poke around the corner, he has to come to this position, not just to the edge of where the mine is, but to actually move all the way to this spot that is far enough for me to attempt to hack him. So as he moves through, the Krakot's attempting to dodge and engage and that kind of thing. The mine's going off. I am attempting to hack the Zenshar, but the Zenshar manages to get away. And we luckily keep the Krakot alive with a successful armor save or pass dodge or whatever it is, but the Zenshar's also kept alive as well. So here he is, I think, repositioning a Warcore or a Guangxi or something else going on in this photograph, but we have to move around to repositioning, I think, Shell and Monks, and basically ending the turn with the Zenshar left alive, but also the Krakot left alive. Okay, so Combined Army turn 2. Looking good, feeling good. Although I've lost my Malignos, it's unconscious here due to that lucky shotgun blast. we are now going to try and eliminate this guy back. And my days are still there. He still hasn't removed it, so that will actually cause me to suffer the penalty. Anyway, Tiger Creature running around here. His guy's got Hyperdynamics. He is dodging the Chain Cult from the Tiger. The Anathaematic, after the, what do you call it, the Impetuous phase is completed, will be trying to get the job done. So here we go. Note that my own Dazer will be becoming a problem. So Anathaematic moving around to this part of the table because he's planning on moving around further over here to be able to take on the position of the Zenshar. As he does so, he wants to try and eliminate this, this Liberto here. But he's going to be -1 dice because of the Dazer. Not to worry though. We are Ballistic Skill 13, and it is +3 for range. He doesn't have Mimetism, so those 2 shots just need to connect one of them, and that does manage to get around his Dogged because the Plasma just ends up doing so much damage to him. So luckily, the Liberto is removed. Now, at this point, I decided to play a bit of a secret card here and say to my opponent, I'm going to spend an order on the Malignos to attempt to use the Auto Medkit. My opponent wasn't too happy about that because I hadn't, put my hand up and opted to constantly remind him about that. He grumbled that if he'd remembered that, he would have shot me again and tried to remove my Malignos, or at least coup de grace him. I did print out my courtesy list and show him a copy. I did take it back off him later on in the game so I could actually look at my army list. And, he knows that auto medikits are out there, and he does have the opportunity to ask. I feel like auto medikit's such a crappy ability in the first place that, being required to constantly remind your opponent to take advantage of its weaknesses is a bit stink. I don't think that I was particularly obligated to constantly remind him that it was there and offer him that piece of tactical advice in a tournament game, so I'm going to stand my ground on that. But it is what it is. The Malignos passes his physical check and is back on the board, so he's feeling really, really good, and hopefully we can make some more plays with him later. Anathaematic now poking around here, and he's going to be taking hopefully a heavy toll on this Zenshar. So poking around, we're out of line of sight of the Dazer now, we're firing at him. It's +3 range, -3 cover, -3 camo, so 3 dice on 10s. The Zenshar is going for the dodge, and again, getting a bit lucky and dodging back around the side of the car. Does go into NWI, mind you, as this happens, or at least maybe did last turn, can't quite remember. I'm now taking the opportunity to step out here with the Greif Operator. I'm going to try and outmaneuver him. There are Guangxi and Shaolins in the distance who can throw smoke if they want to, or try and discover, but I managed to get over here into the cover of this crate before revealing and firing my combi rifle at the Zenshar to try and remove him. This particular interaction did last 2 face-to-face rolls, because in the first attempt, Zenshar gets lucky again and wins the face-to-face roll. The Greif Operator has to pass an armor save, which it does, if I recall correctly. I might not have, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. The second attempt, though, Greif Operator does remove the Zenshar, and finally we've got rid of him. And we can keep this guy in hopefully a position to help defend this flank, defend the Krakot. I do want to keep my data tracker alive because that is worth a point, remember. Anathaematic now poking around here, firing some long-range plasma against an enemy Guangxi. Can't remember if I removed it though. And over this side of the battlefield, we're poking out with the Q-Drone. My opponent, with 2 turns left, with me having an objective points lead, I want to start putting more obstacles in his way. Even if he moves his Sien Warrior around here to attack me, that's just going to mean less orders spent on pressing buttons and going after the designated target with his Wu Ming. So I'm happy for this to be here. I still have an engineer alive. I still have the helper bot nearby, the Dr. Snake Worm thingy, to come and revive the Q drone. So you'll have to remove it rather than just making it unconscious. Just feeling confident that I'm covering another control objective as well. Another button. So zooming out at the end of my turn, feeling really good about things. Let's just talk about this diagrammatically. We can see the middle objective. I've actually controlled that. I've got a Dazer providing a really nice radius here for troops wanting to enter the middle of the field and press that button and attack me. I've got my lieutenant kind of exposed, but only from this angle here, and I think if he dodges back or guts back, this box will help protect him from that angle, and these walls protect him from the other angle, so I think he could be okay. And even if my opponent spends his entire next turn killing that Anathaematic, totally fine with it. Mnemonica's going to bounce it back to something else. That'll only give him one more turn after that to regain the point, so I'm happy with that. I still have my Noctifer in reserve. I've had so many opportunities to reveal it. My opponent may well have forgotten that I have it by now. Flanks are defended by the Greif Operator. Data Track is still alive. I'm still defending the back line against any potential drops, Tiger Soldier, YuJing, that kind of thing. My opponent hasn't revealed any objectives. We've got the Malignos back on board. So just really feeling good about how the game's going. Alrighty, so my opponent turn 2, you can see these Guangxi and Shaolins moving out with Impetuous, but the Anathaematic able to snap off a few plasma shots long range to try and deter them. So everybody's impetuousing every which way. Notably, trying to land a smoke template right in front of this console because there is a Q drone over in the distance as well. He's now having to contend with that also. So smoke is laid down nearby. This is important because this is the angle whereby he can get the Sien Warrior and actually attack the exposed position of my Anathaematic. Of course, his MSV2 HMG will counter my Anathaematic, and if he gets enough wounds through, that will remove a pretty big piece. And to be fair, I was hoping to use the Anathaematic and his Lieutenant's Order in high willpower to press more buttons at the end of the game to really secure that position and set him up in the middle of the table where he'd have Sucker Punch against enemy hackers, that kind of thing. So the play here is really to get that smoke template down and then move out with the Sien Warrior. Now this is important. Moving around here, the Sien Warrior can counter the Anathaematic quite well. He can also counter the Noctifer pretty well. So a very important piece. This is the Lieutenant. We have no chain of command. So his plan is to move out through here first and then move over to the cover of the smoke where he'll really be sitting pretty. Now initially he moves into line of sight of my Noctifer. I decide not to do anything. Then he spends an entirely new order. I want him to actually waste one first, spending an entirely new order to move around over this way. And just at the very last moment, we are going to trigger the Noctifer. And this might sound a little bit strange to you, but let me just point out the reasoning and the arguments here. This photo is showing the position of the Sien Warrior after making one short skill move from this position around here through to the position where he's standing right now. As he does so, he will provoke an ARO from the Anathaematic through that long angle. So the Anathaematic can now dodge behind this box, as I probably normally would, or fire back with the plasma gun that could conceivably actually destroy the Sien Warrior right there. I'm also firing back with a Noctifer through this angle, which, does give the Sien Warrior a chance to just shoot at the Noctifer right back, ignoring Tio Camo, being in good range, that kind of thing. So here's why it's such a good scenario for me to do this. First of all, there's a Dazer there. So the Sien Warrior is going to be -1 shot. If he splits it between the Anathaematic and the Noctifer, his shots will be split twice. If you put 2 on each, it becomes 1 on each. So that's terrible. What he's going to be wanting to do is realistically put 3 on one and 0 on the other one, which is ultimately his decision. I think that's correct. He puts 3 onto the Noctifer, 0 onto the Anathaematic, who is firing back. That's risky, because if the Anathaematic rolls like a 5 or something like that, or a 6, or whatever he needs to hit the Sien Warrior, that could be lights out right there if it's a failed armor save, failed BTS check. The next thing is that the Noctifer has Dogged, and the Sien Warrior doesn't have any shock. So even if he wins that face-to-face roll, I'm still going to be locking down a lot of the table for the remainder of this turn, and that's all the Noctifer really needs to do. The next thing is that the Sien Warrior has no cover. The Noctifer's firing at decent range, so on a 15, the Sien Warrior might be firing back on 14s if he's in range, 8s if he's not. We measured it, it turned out that he wasn't actually in range, and that was something I was also feeling like could have been a contributor. And one of the other reasons why I felt it was such a good moment to shoot. And of course, if I didn't nominate that moment, he'd be in smoke for the rest of that turn. So a really, really good opportunity to fire at the Sien Warrior, but it's not completely okay here, because what could happen is the Anathaematic may just miss, the Noctifer might miss or lose against the Sien Warrior and just take a hit. The Xian Warrior would then start out by being in smoke, would move around, would be firing at the Anathaematic, potentially doing damage, killing it, being able to move around and then take on the Xian Warrior, sorry, the Noctifer. He'd also be able to spend an order firing at the Dazer first before he does all of this, so it is risky. What does happen though is that the Noctifer hits, wins the face-to-face roll, and the Xian Warrior just dies, goes unconscious, way too far away from his doctor, and will put him into Loss of Lieutenant for the final turn of the game. So I'm thinking, damn, we got you. This is a win. So there's very little opportunity now for YuJing to come back into the game. They've got to really complete this turn, and that final turn, there's not going to be much that they can do. So really feeling happy. However, Guangxi, always the way to swing it back. This one's taking a shot from the plasma gun as it moves through, but as it comes around here, is able to get into range to somehow lay down a chain rifle. Unbelievably, both of my models failing dodges and armor saves, so with that lucky swing from the Noctifer, losing my data tracker and losing my Cryph operator as well. So just as if, you know, that Noctifer hit had made him angry, the Guangxi just comes in and just blaps everybody, which is kind of ridiculous. But hey, I'm not going to complain, still feeling good, still feeling like a major victory is coming my way here. Moving out while he still has the orders, with the assault hacker Guilang, who started out, you know, nearby around here, moving towards the middle. He does, I believe, have multi-terrain to avoid the Dazer effects, and nothing's really covering his approach to this objective. So he moves in and presses the button. He is just barely out of range of the Maestro from my Malignos, and of course, he's not equipped with any anti-hacker gear to take on the Malignos, so that will be that. But the objective is swung back to YuJing, so if I don't take that back on my final turn, he's got those 2 points. He's also got a point for killing my data tracker. So technically it's even right now. He has to choose which of my decoys is the real designated target though. And unluckily for me again, he does pick the right one. And to be fair, there is some hints, there is some reads there to be gained. Most of my defensive stuff is nearby to that one model. He does choose that one as the correct one. So you can see from this image, he's pressed the button up in the middle and this designated target is revealed. So he does have the opportunity to move in after it, but you know, not with any models he has nearby. I've covered everything else off with the Anathaematic and the Noctifer quite well. So there you go, Anathaematic sitting pretty nearby. We're all looking good. He does now move out with the last few orders with his data tracker. Goes for an extremely long-range spec fire with his light grenade launcher, which is worth it because if he gets absurdly lucky and lands a grenade on the head of my designated target and somehow kills it, that's a swing of getting 5 objective points right there, which would be disastrous for me. But luckily he misses that. The turn eventually ending as he repositions closer. This is important too because just in case he has an order or two to spend in the final turn of the game later, he's moving him closer so that he can get closer within range of where the designated target is. Still not within 16, but if he has another turn to move around here, spend a command token, have another order to fire, he might be able to get it within range to land on a 10. Okay, so final combined army turn, we really need to just cripple him here and just seal the deal, as it were. So moving out with the Malignos in range of the Assault Hacker who is repositioned over here, using Maestro, that's easily able to defeat the Assault Hacker here who, you know, even with MSV1 and a combi rifle, can't really match the +3, -3 and 2 dice of the Maestro, and he is laid low, so that's good. Using a coordinated order now, the plan is to get the lieutenant around here, using the lieutenant order first, then coordinating. Just getting both the Anathaematic, who's coming through the Dazer, and the Malignos to come around, and they're going to go for each objective respectively to ensure that I end the game with more of these consoles, or at least the same number of the consoles, compared to him. I suspected maybe he had a ninja nearby, but that hadn't shown up, and it would have to have deployed outside of the exclusion zone. So really hoping for the best here, that I can at least take these consoles back and keep at least one of them on my side. So they're moving out around here. The Malignos showing up and just going prone behind this thing. Anathaematic just staying clear of the Warcore for now. We'll be moving in shortly. So the very next order, Anathaematic waiting while the Malignos moves next to the objective that YuJing previously took, and recovering that for the name of the EI. So that comes back over to the side of the aliens. Anathaematic moving over to the other objective and controlling it and capturing it, so that goes successfully. Very few orders left. We're also having to shoot at the war core with a separate order as well. That will then enable me to move just beyond the position of this Guangxi and set up a shot where, after revealing this decoy, after pressing the button successfully, firing the plasma gun into this Guangxi, the splash blows out here and will eliminate both the Guangxi and the decoy. And with only one order left, we're wanting to move through here and get to a spot where I can hopefully provide AROs to hack his designated his data tracker if he wants to spend more than one order going after my designated target. So that's pretty much the extent of it. Sorry, that's not the last thing that happens. That was a single short skill moving me from there to there. The last action of the Anathaematic is to fire his horribly horrifying plasma gun at the Doctor, causing the splash to go on his YuJing as well, and removing another couple of orders in his final turn. Of course, he's going to be in Lost Lieutenant, but it's still juicy to do this because Doctor's removed and Sniper's removed, and it leaves my beautiful Anathaematic Lieutenant in range of his data tracker for hacking purposes. The mine does go off, but doesn't do anything, and that was a solid turn. The only thing better would have been me somehow getting around the corner angle here, firing the plasma gun and eliminating that data tracker. That's the only thing that would have made this turn better. So there you go, YuJing desperately firing back from this splash, but is totaled. Okay, so final position here, Anathaematic setting up right next to data tracker, and in his final last turn, Lost Lieutenant, Guangxi's moving around, not able to do anything, and the Q drone mopping up the Shaolin monk. And yeah, Guangxi can't really do anything to this Malignos here, he can't gain the points back. So there's only one final play to finish this game, and that is for him to use his last irregular order on his data tracker, because he may as well try and fire this at my designated target, because at long range and long range, so -3, and another -6 for spec firing, that's -9, he'd need a 4. And if he can kill it, that gives him 5 objective points, right? So I've got more consoles than him, that gives me 2. I've killed his designated target, but without my data tracker, so I've also got 5. So he just goes for it anyway, and you know, he's lost the game pretty badly, can't really do anything else, you may as well. So rolls the dice, and of course, it's a 4. Just a 4, just rolls the crit. Can't even attempt to dodge it. Designated target just dies. Just has to be the janky guy who just flips the rug out from under your feet. So I'm slapping my forehead and going, geez. After playing such a great game, you know, which was a major victory, turns out to be a game where he suddenly just gets 5 objective points. So let's add it up. He's killed my data tracker. My designated target, amazingly. He's killed it with his designated target. Sorry, I'm getting the names all mixed up. He's killed my designated target with his data tracker for 5 points, and he's killed my data tracker while keeping his alive, so that is 6 points total. I've killed his designated target, but without my data tracker. I've got more consoles than he does, so that's 3 plus 2 is 5, and in my last turn I also killed one of the decoys, so I also have 1 from that. It is a 6-6 draw, which was frustrating. Not going to cry about it too much because it does mean that I win the tournament. So happy days. Event finished. I came out on top there. But frustrating that this turned out not to be a win despite me playing pretty well. Let's take the time now to reflect on what was otherwise a pretty good game. Which side played better here? I'm pretty sure we can agree that this was Combined Army outplaying YuJing in terms of the decisions made, the positioning, the lists, things like that. I think that if you were to erase our memories of closed information and make us replay the game, your money would probably be on this Combined Army list and player combination against this YuJing list and player combination. Your money would probably be on the Combined Army side for this, I would imagine. let's go back through some of the main plays. The play that I made with my Libertos initially wasn't particularly lucky. I was going to have made that play, regardless, even if I hadn't chosen the correct designated target. Let's imagine this game where I'd chosen the incorrect designated target both times and just killed 2 decoys, but that my opponent had shot a decoy as well, or just missed. I still would have won. So my first turn wasn't especially lucky. I mean, I just captured an objective with my Malignos, and my Libertos took advantage of a weak position in the YuJing line. In his follow-up turn, he was lucky with his Liberto to actually kill my Malignos, because that was pretty much a 50-50 play out. He was a bit unlucky to have not killed my Krakot with his Zensha, but he got the Krakot later on with a lucky Guangxi anyway. And he'd left his Zensha just sitting out there for me to kill. So even though I didn't get rid of it straight away with my Anathaematic, and I had to use my Gryph Operator to do it anyway, and lost the Gryph Operator as a result to, again, a lucky Guangxi, nothing really out of the ordinary happened there. Yes, I got a little bit lucky to beat his Xian Warrior with my Noctifer, but I also played it well. I also had the Dazer set up. I had the Anathaematic in a pretty good position to bait him out. I had the Noctifer in a good position to outrange him. I would have been okay for the rest of that game if the turn had just ended with my Anathaematic alive, Noctifer dead, Xian Warrior just sitting out in the middle of nowhere. Provided that I could have actually moved out there and just attacked him. Imagine this game if the Anathaematic had moved out, shot the Xian Warrior, and put him into Lost Lieutenant after that, and that he had just failed his attempts to spec fire on 4s onto my designated target, or simply failed to press the button because my Anathaematic was in the middle of the table, able to use Sucker Punch. So a lot of alternatives, a lot of contingencies playing out still would have resulted in a combined army win. To imagine YuJing winning this game, you have to imagine situations like the Xian Warrior gunning down the Anathaematic, beating the Noctifer, turning on the button, selecting the right designated target, not taking too much damage, the Wu Ming landing the templates, that kind of thing. You have to imagine a lot more things going right. And this is a game where even more could have gone right for Combined Army, more so than it did. So I was happy with how the list performed. It performed better than I thought it would, and actually turned out to be really suitable for Unmasking. I don't know if I would run this in a larger tournament where it also has to be used for a lot of other games as well. I might drop the Gryph Operator, I might drop this or that, but Anathematic's pretty cool. And hope you enjoyed this one. Had a really fun time. Better end it there. Hopefully we'll have some more content this weekend, probably in some form of an analysis video of some kind, and I hope that you will join me. Thanks for watching.